Thank you for auditing Professor Skye's Record Review, the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's going to be reviewing 5 songs for the Dysphoric by Lauren Auder. I don't know if it's pronounced Auder or Auder. She's half French, half English, so I'm a French professor. I'll stick with Auder. Now, before I get any further into this review, I must tell you, if you have never heard her voice, you must go and find a song by Lauren Auder right now. In my opinion, she has one of the most beautiful, if not the most beautiful voice in pop, rock, whatever kind of genre you want to put her in. It is absolutely astounding. It's got this baritone, low quality to it, which I suppose reminds me of Leonard Cohen in a way. It's not gravelly though, but mainly it reminds me of Leonard Cohen in the intimacy and the way you just feel wrapped into the music with her voice. It's got range, sincerity, no irony to it, and it's not, it's not at all like Leonard Cohen, because it's not, some old man. It's a very young woman, 21 years old, who's able to produce these sounds that just absolutely draw you into the music. And it's a special thing that she's able to do with her voice. So if for nothing else, turn off the video and just go listen to some of her music. Now I'm going to do a full review. I almost didn't do a review because the album is called 5 Songs for the Dysphoric, and I am not dysphoric, right? And I do have a habit of reviewing albums that are not for me, right? I'm a middle-aged cis white male, so music that's for me is, Foo Fighters and AC/DC and all that, right? But I'm not interested in sort of staying in my lane, and I definitely am very interested in music that was not created for me, because I think it can help me to better understand people who do not have my same experience. And in that way, this album is absolutely universal. I would say, even though, according to a wonderful interview that I read with her in another magazine, I'll put a link in the description, she talks about this as being an album about the collateral damage of dysphoria, and about the difficulty of intimacy in being trans. So this is a very interesting idea. I never thought about this, right? Because obviously if you're trans, there's a point before you come out and a point after. And in that point before, you necessarily have a real block to intimacy where you're not being true to yourself, right? And this whole album, she's writing about this collateral damage, this desire for intimacy and for connection, for sincerity and for honesty, which had been deprived of her before she had come out. So yes, that is a very specific experience which I will never live. But it's also a very human, it's a very more universal expression, universally human expression of feeling misunderstood and wondering if you are really who you are. It's funny because when I saw the title of this album, I thought it said 5 songs for the dysmorphic. And I do actually suffer from dysmorphia. Like when I look in a mirror, I see a very overweight man. I always have. And everyone tells me that's not what is in front of me, and that's fine. And I spoke about this with my wife, and she's like, do not mention that in the video. Dysphoria is a much more disturbing phenomena. It has much more of an impact, and these things are not at all similar. They're different by magnitude. But I will say this one thing that unites them. It's that feeling of looking at the mirror and thinking what is reflected is not the truth, or not knowing if what is reflected is the truth, if it's the real you that is being reflected in the mirror. Which is why in that interview, I found it interesting that she said this album is holding up a mirror to herself. That is what it is. It's about trans intimacy with herself. As much as it is with us, it's with herself. And it really is an amazing work. Just for 5 songs to be able to communicate as much as she is able to. It's a very impressive work. So the first track is called Animal. This is my stamp. Here, that you listen to it. You go listen to that and then come back. You tell me this isn't like the best thing you've heard in a long time. It's a masterpiece of a song. It's ominous distortion starts off. Her slow, slurred, low voice comes in. These lyrics are very well matched by the moving nature of the music, especially the piano and the chorus. And then her just saying, I'm not animal. This line, I am not animal. I am not animal. It's not, I am not an animal. That little indefinite article would make a huge difference. I am not an animal is like a cry, like you must see me as a human and I'm a human being, and it's a cry of humanity. but I am not animal. I don't know exactly what that does, why that transforms a lyric, which could be, I mean, a little pedestrian, into something a little bit more, something a lot more. And especially the way that she sings it and the way that it's produced. It's produced by someone named MMPH. Great name, wonderful producer. I hope that there's not one producer on the whole album. There's a whole bunch of different producers. But I think that and Auder should work together more, because this is definitely the most successful song on the album. It's just really, really meaningful. And even in the lyrics, she talks about looking at her hips and her ribs in the mirror and seeing the imperfections and talking about that. And it really is getting into the sense of seeing her who she is. But now when she sees her hips and her ribs, she remembers a former lover. That's what the lyrics are about. So it's also about sort of, I guess, reclaiming your body or looking past your imperfections or creating intimate human connections which allow you to get over the sadness and depression that come from staring at yourself for too long and realizing that's not you looking back, right? It's a really good album. It's a short album, but it does all of that. Then at the end, it goes from I'm not animal to that's not animal, describing her behavior, I believe. This great drum machine in the back. It's just great. And then the next track is produced by Clams Casino, a.k.a. Rap Ferreira, whose album I reviewed last month, who I absolutely love. It's a little bit of a lighter song, a little bit happier, especially after the first track. It's a nice break. Seems to be the happiness that someone's there. Keep on saying, you're here. The pre-chorus and the chorus seem to be very concerned with sincerity. And I think that's one of the main themes of this album, this idea of sincerity and being honest. Honest with yourself, honest with others. The chorus is insane. It's an insanely good chorus, but it's insane. This odd guitar, these like clashing sounds, like almost like a 90s guitar line with weird vocalization, in the background and synthesizers. So much happening, but it never falls apart. It's never too busy, because Lauren Auder's voice keeps everything together. You just hear it. It's interesting because in that interview, she says that her goal is to hold people with her voice, like to feel held. And that's a really bold claim, which I would normally say is kind of pretentious, but it totally fits. That's how you feel listening, especially if you have headphones on. You feel like she's holding you. You know, like whatever your insecurities are, whatever your fears are, your doubts, like that voice is holding you, which is something that a lot of music aspires to. And sometimes music does that for other people and doesn't do it for you, you know? This music does that for me. So I suggest it definitely on that level. Next track is called Quiet, which starts off quiet with a piano and a voice, but it builds with synth noises, almost 80s percussion in the chorus. In an interview that you can find on the lyric site Genius, she talks about how this is about how she used to mystify herself in the past, and the difficulty of not being able to be seen as yourself. I suppose this is again about coming out as trans. But it's funny because for as much as she is demystifying herself, this album is still very mysterious. I can't figure out if she's French or English. I can't figure out like maybe a quarter of the lyrics. I have a hard time understanding the first time through. And the way that she sings, like this line. So whatever's left plunging through your spine is where I will kneel. You call it an altar, I'll call it a deal. Great lyric. I don't know what it means. That happens a lot on this album. She still maintains a lot of this mystery. Next track is called Small Ghost. Lyrics are kind of jammed together in here, almost an industrial sound. As far as genre goes, she defines herself as orchestral pop, which I don't know because there's not like real orchestras on here. I've heard people describe it as Baroque pop. I just call it good songwriting with a great voice. I'm not really sure if I'd go much further than that. But I guess orchestral pop does work. Here it gets a little bit industrial, like I said. The rhythmic structure gets a little bit bizarre with some distorted guitars. I'm sure you kept more than I felt. Sorry, my notes are backwards. Any other life I'd known, small hand in mind, such a long haunt for small ghosts. Nice image of these small ghosts. I don't know what it means again. It's still mysterious, but it makes some kind of internal sense. Then the final track, Unseen. I can't tell if Unseen is better than Animal or as good, but it's an amazing track. It's almost like shoegaze in its layers of noise, just walls of sound, My Bloody Valentine almost, but then also it sort of sounds like a soul song, like a beautiful ride cymbal, and then along with her voice, you have this bass line, which keeps everything together, which is necessary because her voice is matched with another voice, that of Celeste, who sings in a much higher register, and their interplay is perfect, especially on the chorus where they sing this line together. I know you felt unseen, hardly yourself, or is this what that means? So is feeling unseen what it is to not be yourself? Wow, this is like really deep writing. And with this beautiful harmony between the high voice and the low voice, it's just great. And this bass line, she says it's about chasing herself. And it's just a beautiful line about that. Mixed in with is like this almost like a saxophone solo, which you might think is almost like making fun of saxophone solos because it just sounds like a saxophone solo, but it fits perfectly in the song. Just a beautiful track, another great example of what her voice can do, and this whole feeling that you get for this album. Because I don't know what it's like to be unseen because I don't feel that my birth gender matches my gender at birth matches my true gender, right? I don't know that feeling of being unseen. But being unseen itself is one of the most underrated and under-discussed sources of sadness in human existence. I mean, do you ever hear people say when they're sad, I just feel unseen? And then we say other things. But being unseen is such a terrible feeling and such a cause of sadness all the way throughout the world. It is absolutely universal. And this song with someone just telling you, these two people telling you with their beautiful voices, I know you felt unseen, hardly yourself, or is this what that means? You feel seen. You feel like you're talking to somebody who knows that you felt unseen and is carrying you and helping you through that feeling. Okay? So I don't know. What did you listen to today? That's what I listened to today. It's a good album. All right, this is actually my second take. So sometimes people ask, why do you end every video pointing at the camera? I'll tell you why. I record on my iPhone. That's my camera, that's my microphone. I just record on iPhone. I do things quick, I don't edit, I just try to put out lots of stuff, and all the production value of this channel is just my brain, because I have a lot of confidence that I have interesting things to say. So I used to never know where the camera was, so I would do entire videos looking the wrong way, and so I started pointing at the camera, but I recorded it with the camera backwards. So there's a whole nother take of this video, a worse take, of this video where I'm talking like this. So, for myself, there is the camera.